Late on Saturday night, the Cleveland Cavaliers executed a trade with the Sacramento Kings, sending DeAndre Hunter to Sacramento in exchange for Dennis Schroder and Keon Ellis. Schroder was drafted by the Hawks when Kenny Atkinson was an assistant there. Keon Ellis played for current Cavs assistant Jawad Williams in Sacramento, so some familiarity. By executing this deal, the Cavs saved about $6.9 million in salary cap space, about $50 million in overall savings when you include the salary cap plus tax purposes. They're now just $14.1 million over the second apron, a much more manageable number to get out. And Jason, you and I were going back in the group chat. I don't think they're done, and we're going to get to that part of this in a sec, but you're not as high on this trade as some others are. Well, because I think you like DeAndre Hunter's fit a little better than you like Schroder and Ellis.
I just want to see what else is coming. I'm not going to render judgment on all this until after the trade.
You think there's definitely something else?
Oh yeah, this isn't it. Because it just didn't make sense to me. Because I mean, listen.
Other than the savings.
But Dan's never cared about money.
No.
In terms of.
But Dan's done a lot of things recently that he never did before.
And that's fair. And that's why, I just don't know. Because, I mean, Hunter's not having a great year. Like, don't misunderstand. But you're putting it nicely. But I still think in a postseason series, which is all you're really building for right now, I still think he's a little bit more helpful to you. Like, they just sold him off for parts, more or less.
Yeah.
So I'm just a little bit surprised by that. I want to see what else they have in store. I think it's pretty obvious Lonzo Ball's probably on the move as a cost-cutting move. But, when everyone was champion over the weekend, wow, the Cavs cut $50 million, I'm like, okay, but Dan hasn't paid the luxury tax in 8 years. And the Dan that I used to know was far more concerned with winning a championship than $50 million. So and that's why I just want to see what else is coming, because this isn't it. And
that's fair. Something else could be coming.
I'm not kidding. I mean, Ellis is fine. He can shoot it. He can defend. I've never been a big Schroder guy. I think there's a reason why he's been traded about 17 times. He's played for half the league.
He's the Gaylord Perry of the NBA.
He's played for half the league.
Yeah.
So I want to wait and see what the rest of it looks like when we get to the other side of the trade deadline, and then I think we'll have a clearer picture of what it is they're trying to do.
I have been trying to figure out the same thing. Like, is this a setup, a precursor to a much bigger deal? I keep hearing there's whispers around maybe Giannis. I mean, I don't know how they pull that off.
I don't think that's. I don't know. I would be shocked if Milwaukee took a Cavs package compared to what other teams can do.
Would too, because we don't have picks.
No.
And they want picks.
Yes.
Plus, could you imagine the irony of it? If that deal were to go through.
Come on, Jimmy. Come on, Jimmy.
And the Cavaliers win an NBA title. Jimmy will have brought a championship to Cleveland after all.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And not the way we wanted
Mike and I talked about that over the weekend, because I've said before, like, you think Jimmy wants to help the Cavs win a title?
Yeah,
like, no. No.
I just can't see it. That's one reason. The other reason is we don't have what they want. I mean,
Mobley's the best player they could get.
Well, and so now we start talking about are they ready to move off of Mobley?
Well, it's not are you ready to move off of Mobley. It's are you ready to how serious are you about acquiring a top 5 player in the NBA? Because that's not Evan.
Yeah.
So as good as Evan is, and in Mike,
but he would be part of that package.
He would have to be. Yeah.
Otherwise Milwaukee won't even pick up the phone.
Before we get to Jan, let's talk about Keon Ellis.
One last thing on that, on the whole.
I want to hear
G's
thoughts too.
I think, and we disagree, because I don't see a home run swing coming next. Mm-hmm. To me, it looks like nothing more than what it is on the surface. It's a deck clear. It gets them under the apron. It saves
No, they're not under the apron.
Well, I thought they were. They're under the second apron, right?
They're still $14 million into the second apron. It's just a more manageable number to be able to get out of.
Okay, so their savings on this deal alone would be?
That they just did.
Yeah.
It was $6.9 million.
Okay. What are they saving any other money other than that?
Luxury tax money.
And that number is?
$50 million.
And that's the number I'm driving at. That's not an insignificant amount of money. If I'm Dan, and I know what you're saying, because you're right, I say there's pre-stroke Dan and post-stroke Dan. Post-stroke Dan, we know, has been less meddlesome. Mm-hmm. He's been, I think, more frugal. I think. I mean, you said that they haven't paid the tax in 8 years.
I don't think that's good. That's good roster management.
It is.
Why they haven't paid
but that's
the tax.
something that they didn't always exercise pre-stroke.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know.
Well, here's where all this is leading for me. We're going to find out what comes next.
Yeah.
If there's a big swing behind this, then Dan's not interested in saving money. He sees that the opening is there. The East is so winnable. I know Detroit seems to be running away with it. I'm not buying in yet. I'm just not buying in yet on Detroit. We'll see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That was JB's, big problem when he was here. Let's see what he does once he gets to a postseason. But if Dan is sitting in his ivory tower and he's looking at this and saying, wow, we can win this thing. We can at least get to the finals, but not as constructed. We've got to make some moves. Then this is a setup to the big move. If he's just looking at it and saying, I'm looking at the talent out west, there's 4 teams out west that I don't think we can beat. This is not the year. I'm going to clear the decks, save some money, and maybe take a swing next year. And that's what I think is going on.
Well, I think if they're trying to get out of the second apron, they've explored options.
Do they get out of that, by the way, if there's another move that's coming, right?
They have to make 2 more to get onto the second apron.
Oh, it is. This is not a single.
They can make a single move, but
unlikely.
Assuming they get rid of Lonzo, which
that does not alone get them under.
That does not alone get them out of the second apron.
Okay.
Gee, what do you think of these 2 guys, though? Schroder and Ellis. How do they fit in?
I like Schroder a little bit more than I think a lot of people do because it just seems like Schroder always hitting big shots. Schroder is always, I don't know whether he's playing for. I mean, he didn't play for everybody. He played for the Lakers, obviously the Kings. He didn't play for the Hawks. I mean, he didn't play for half the teams in the NFL or NBA. So for me, I've always thought that he was a clutch player. I've always thought that he played more in crunch time better than what I guess his reputation is.
He gets under team skins too, doesn't he?
He does. And I think that, he would be a massive upgrade to me over Lonzo Ball because, I didn't think I was going to say this before the season. I don't know if Lonzo can play no more, man. Like, I don't know. One of the things that I looked at with Lonzo Ball is he's just not as quick anymore. He can't blow by anybody, and I think it's a good look for him that he's able to play, but I don't know how much he can play back-to-back. And the fact that he can't shoot at all, I mean, he's getting left extremely open. Like, they're like, listen, you self-check. Go ahead and let him shoot. For me, I like Ellis. I like the fact that he's a shooter and he can play defense. And the thing I think what really messed DeAndre Hunter up is the fact that his defense kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. Going back to what he was at Virginia, going back to some of his early days in Atlanta, I thought he was a plus defender that, when locked in and in a good defense with other pieces around him, could really hang with a lot of the elite guards and elite wings in this league. And it just wasn't the same. It looked like he took a step back athletically. And you couple that with the fact that he had a tough time shooting this year, I think they kind of, got really quickly. It was like, we need to get off him immediately. But I will say overall in general with the move in itself, it kind of reminds me of that year when LeBron was here last. And they reset the squad 4 or 5 times.
They tore half the roster apart in one day.
They had Jay Crowder and D Wade and Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose, and then they moved them for Hood and Clarkson and it was just like wow, they reset that thing and they end up making it to the finals.
That team was ready to strangle each other.
Yeah.
They had to do that was toxic. They had to do something, and to Kobe's credit, he salvaged it. Like he got the guys out he needed to get out, and he reset sort of the temperature in the room.
Is this a silent reset where you say, look, all right, we think we like these pieces now, but if something else comes available, we're in a better position to kind of take advantage of that?
Yeah, I think it's a different position than what they were in 2018. I don't think it's quite to that extreme. But I think that there's more on the way. This isn't the only move at the deadline.
I hope you're right, because this isn't a championship-making move. No. This doesn't win them a title.
No. And
there has to be other pieces.
And Hunter's not like a locker room problem where you got to get this guy out of here, which is what you had 8 years ago.
What happened with him? Why did we all buy in so deeply last year, and then this year we all agree he can't play.
Well, you're seeing the two extremes of him, and like he was terrific last year when he came over. Was. And
we thought it was a steal of a deal.
And now, you're sort of seeing the floor. You saw the ceiling, and now you see the floor.
Well, that's a drastic.
And what he is probably something in the middle. He's better than what he's shown. He probably was over his skis a little bit last year with what he showed on a consistent basis, at least, to what he's capable of doing. But, I mean, you're seeing why Atlanta was willing to get off his money. Like, you just saw this year why Atlanta was...
Yeah, no, it's evident now.
When we sat here and championed him last year for the trade, and everyone's like, wow, I can't believe they got this guy. They got under the tax, and it was a good trade at the time. It was good for what they needed. It pushed the tax clock out a year. Like, it was a good move. But now you've just turned around a year later and you're selling them for parts. It's just I was just a little bit surprised. And that's why I just think there's more coming.
Mike's got something.
And you counting on Dean. They just basically said, we're counting on Dean Wade.
Well, that's a bad strategy.
Right. Like,
particularly in the playoffs.
I mean, this was the answer to some of that. Now, I kind of feel what Jason is saying a little bit. Like, I know what his ceiling is. At least if you get a ceiling in 2 or 3 games in the playoffs, that might get you over the top. But they obviously don't believe that's in there consistently.
Yeah. Mike, I know you're higher on it than I am, so just explain why you like it.
Yeah, I don't think it's like a A++ by any means, but I understand the reasoning. Jason said in the group chat he thinks their ceiling with good DeAndre Hunter is higher than it is with Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroder.
I would buy that.
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I
get that premise. I don't disagree with that. I just think DeAndre Hunter's been way too inconsistent.
Man.
Well, that's fair.
He hasn't given you that peak level to make you feel confident.
Do you know why? Is it just a bad fit? Like, what's your explanation? I know Jay said he was his floor and his ceiling.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
But why are we seeing his ceiling this year?
Or his floor?
Or his floor, rather, when we didn't see it last year?
He shot out of his mind last year. The whole team shot out of their mind last year. He walked into a situation where literally Cleveland could not miss from beyond the arc, and DeAndre Hunter stepped in from Atlanta where he was having a good season and fit in seamlessly in that realm. Yeah. This year they've all collectively, outside of Sam Merrill, Jalen Tyson, and Donovan Mitchell, have taken a step back in their offensive efficiency. DeAndre is probably the biggest proponent of that. All his numbers are down across the board. He's not the same defender he once was. He's a little older. He's had a couple knee injuries. And when they traded for him, they envisioned him being able to be their closing 4. To play alongside Evan Mobley, and he just isn't the defender at that position, the rebounder at that position, to where their size advantage when they have those two together, Mobley and Hunter at the 4-5, it wasn't giving them the dividends they needed to feel comfortable closing. So he's gone. Wish him the best of luck. It didn't work out. On the players they got in, Schroder is not Darius Garland's replacement, but he is Darius Garland insurance, and I do think he makes Lonzo Ball even more expendable than he was before. And it makes Craig Porter Jr. a little more expendable. Craig Porter Jr. played awesome last night, but they don't have a roster spot for Naquan Tomlin, by the way.
Right.
Like, with this deal, there's not a current – somebody's got to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure how many teams are going to want to just take on Lonzo Ball's contract for a second-round pick. Like,
what's his
number? I don't even know if that's worth it. It's $10 million. It's expiring. But you may have to throw a Craig Porter Jr. or someone else in there as a sweetener in a deal to get them to open up a roster spot to Naquan.
I think we all like Porter, right?
I like Porter, but you just traded for Schroder, who's under contract next year. He's going to take those minutes. Schroder's better than Craig Porter.
There's just not
a
place for him.
Right.
Yeah. And then Keon Ellis, and this is the thing I want to mention. Steve, you can play these. If you haven't seen Keon Ellis play defense, just watch this clip as I'm talking. The dude is a defensive menace. He's 6'4", 180 pounds. He's not a big dude. He's not a giant guy. He's long, he's lanky, he's athletic. But he plays with that blue collar, I'm in your face. Think Naquan Tomlin, but guard version. Like, that's the defensive intensity this guy plays with. And in the last couple of postseasons, the Cavaliers had gotten run off the court by point guards that they could not stay in front of, that they could not stop. Go back to the Tyrese Halliburton Indiana series, where they were consistently getting into the paint, breaking down the Cavs' defense.
Yeah, he'd be a great matchup in that scenario.
That is why you get a Keon Ellis. He may not be a great offensive player. He's a better three-point shooter in his career than Isaac Okoro was. But think of the more guard, less forward version of Isaac Okoro. That's what you're getting in Keon Ellis. And I do think immediately whenever he joins the team, he's supposed to join the team in L.A., like, he slides in and fits in to an archetype on this roster they did not have before the deal. So it's two parts. Neither's as good as DeAndre Hunter. I could see in the Cavs' mind, in their front brass, of with these two guys, we're more versatile in a playoff series than we would have been with DeAndre. It helps our books a little bit. And the big thing now is I don't think they're done either.